Do you have recommendations for moving out of despair due to the isolation of the pandemic, with the long projection of time until we reach a critical mass of vaccination and therefore herd immunity and so on? I feel the deep grief of separation. I fear withering away during this interim before the vaccine really takes effect. I'm with you. I feel that sometimes also. And now we have to take on board with mutations and that kind of stuff. We could be in this a condition like this for another year or something like that. It's heavy. It's like a sentence, and it hits each person differently. So I'm sorry about that. I have my own griefs about that. I'm an extroverted person. It's really at times difficult for me to go, wow, I just have to keep hanging out with myself. But here's a way to think about that also. Here's the way I'm thinking about it. If we're here to transform, then we can transform in this more isolated condition, in this less community-based kind of condition. As a matter of fact, initiation requires the separation of a person from everyone else and from their former life. So another way to look at it is that we're in an initiation. And initiations always have a descent. Even the hero's journey, which is about, fighting one's way through and succeeding and dealing with the outer world, begins with the descent. And so we're in the descent. And I'm not saying it's easy, and I sympathize with pain and with confusion, with depression and anxiety about being in these separated conditions. But one way to imagine and think about it is that we're in an initiation. And an initiation, I'm going to go back over this, has these two parts. One is the opening of the wound so that some healing could occur, and the other is the awakening of the deep self so that transformation could occur. So in the descent, in the anguish, you could say, is really those two things. Like when I accept, okay, here I am. I'm spending a lot of time. Well, it's different for me, perhaps. A lot of time by myself. But when I was young, I was in prison for a while, and I was in isolation, solitary confinement for months. And it was in that confinement that I found elements of myself that I'm now talking about, both the wounded part and this connection to something deep and knowing. And so once I stopped pitying myself when I'm isolated or feeling isolated, then all of a sudden I go, oh yeah, wait a minute. I'm now actually closer to a healing place, and I'm closer to a place of awakening. And that's not an easy thing. I know that. But that's what I learned. And I started learning it when I was 21 years old. And so I go through my human response of, oh no, I can't deal with this. By the way, that's the ego. Whenever a voice inside of it is saying, I can't take it, it's the ego that can't take it. As soon as we dislodge the ego a little bit, all of a sudden we realize we can take it. And then there's natural things for each person to do, often their practices. Some people turn to music, other people turn to nature, some people turn to gardening, other people turn to writing. Whatever it is, the isolation is the ideal condition for developing one's genius and finding practices that are the long-term solution for things. So that's a lot to ask, but